What does Raoul hold in his crypto portfolio today? Now, of course, Raoul is one of the most respected names in cryptocurrency, and in a recent interview, he shared his crypto portfolio. Now, in the past, he's discussed how he holds Bitcoin, Ether, and some altcoins. Well, in this interview, he gave more details on these altcoins and revealed some of the top projects that he holds. So in this video, we're going to find out more about Raoul's crypto portfolio. We're also going to hear what date Raoul thinks the current cycle will end. Does he still think Bitcoin is a strong investment, or instead will he be adding to his altcoins? Let's get straight into our first clip.
Now, I want to talk a bit more about Ethereum. I hold Ethereum. I'm bullish on it. I'm staking ETH2. I do believe Ethereum has first mover advantage. But one thing that is in the back of my mind and thinking about the future of adoption are these gas fees. How do you personally look at this? And do you see this as a risk that a Solana and some other Polkadot or something can overtake Ethereum eventually as a result?
Maybe. I'm indifferent. You know, I have no emotion about does Solana become a larger network. It's a trade-off between centralization and decentralization. The reason the gas fees are so expensive in Ethereum is because it's so popular. So that opens up opportunities for other chains. Do they become a chain that ends up being larger than Ethereum? Who the hell knows? And it doesn't really matter. People take it like it's a personal thing. It's like, do I care whether Google is bigger than Apple or Apple bigger? No, they're all going to exist.
Well, Raoul, real quick, maybe I didn't phrase that correctly. So all emotions aside, think of, okay, Yahoo came out with the great search engine at the time, but then Google came along with a better algorithm and a cleaner interface, and then essentially owned the search market, right? So I'm thinking from that standpoint of speed, transaction per second, and things like that. Are you concerned, or maybe it's just early where it doesn't matter at this point? Because Yahoo,
it doesn't matter at this point. I mean, if you can show me the network dying in Ethereum and network growth slowing, then that's a serious issue. If it's not, then it's not. You know, right now it's highly observable that the Ethereum network is growing faster than the Bitcoin network, and Solana and Terra and Avalanche are growing faster than Ethereum, but from a lower base. That's fine. So they're all growing. And you know, the Bitcoin network is growing. So every one of those is growing. And so at this stage, it doesn't matter.
Got it. Now, let's talk a bit more about Ethereum. Where do you see it as one of the base layer protocols similar to what we have in the internet? Because there's so much building on it. You had ICOs, now you have NFTs, and obviously it's leading the DeFi movement. What are your thoughts on all these things that are being built on it? And is that part of why you're so bullish on it, that it is that?
Yeah, this is what makes Metcalfe's law interesting, because you can have a chain like Doge, which has a lot of investors, but not enough use cases. I think it may come because it's such a big chain with so many people on it that why would you not build applications for it? But it's a very lopsided Metcalfe's law, so it should be very volatile in price, because once the investors leave, there's no stuff. Ethereum is so deep and so rich an ecosystem with the number of people building on it that it's incredibly powerful. And everybody has to realize is whatever people think the narrative is in Bitcoin about Bitcoin being money, the reality is the medium of exchange in Web 3.0 is ETH. I mean, all NFTs are priced in ETH. Sotheby's are doing art auctions in ETH. DeFi is based in ETH generally. The metaverse is in ETH. I even commissioned a headquarters for Real Vision in Crypto Voxels. We got a metaverse architects firm to build it. They charge us an ETH. So ETH is money right now. Does it always remain money? Who knows? But right now, nobody pays each other in Web 3.0 and Bitcoin. Literally nobody.
Yeah, absolutely. It's everything with NFTs and metaverse. You have to use ETH at this point. So with that said, do you have a price prediction for ETH at the peak of this respective bull run?
Yeah, I mean, I think it goes over 20,000, and I have done for a long time. And there's a potential for even further because of the staking dynamics and stuff. But my general view is that it goes to 20,000. That was, and I say that with a relative level of confidence. That's just a repeat of what Bitcoin did in 2017. It kind of overlays pretty well. It's not perfect. It was perfect for a while. The charts were like spooky tick for tick. Now they're not, but contextually kind of makes sense for me. It's only a 4x from here. I mean, we've seen Bitcoin do 4x in, or ETH last cycle did, 4x, 5x, 6x in the last month of the year. So who knows? I think the cycle extends anyway. I think it's not going to be the same Bitcoin halving cycle that we've seen. I think it's changed because of the nature of people who are in the market now as well, with the institutions coming in and others. So yeah, I think it goes further and higher than most people imagine.
Do you see the cycle extension going to maybe mid next year to blow off top is in mid next year or beyond that?
I think mid next year. I think it's somewhere around if ETH we've just discussed is so important to the current environment of where we are, arguably it's more important than Bitcoin because of how much is being built on it and is driving prices because of NFTs and DeFi and all these things moving the price of ETH. Then the ETH 2.0 staking, whenever that happens, and not the staking, the release of ETH 2.0, I think around that is the moment, because you kind of know. I know I've been arguing a bit on Twitter about this. I've always said that the moment it's released is probably a buy the rumor, sell the fact. And everyone's like, yeah, but my ETH's already going to be locked for a longer period. But I can front run you because I know you have to sell your ETH. You might sell your ETH as soon as you're unlocked. So why would I give you the benefit of higher prices to sell into? Markets know positions. So there's nothing worse than ETH 2.0 out, you're still locked, and I get to sell because I didn't stake, and you're trapped watching the prices fall.
Let's talk
about markets love pain.
Yeah, and I know you've talked about it too, that the little guy gets to front run a lot of the institutions this time around.
Yeah, I mean, all the way through, the little guys have front run the institutions. I've launched this Exponential Age Asset Management, which is a fund of hedge funds that invests in crypto hedge funds. There's a lot of people like, why didn't you let the little guys in? I'm like, I can't legally because of the law, and I understand that it's unfair. And yes, I'm doing some other projects that will help that. But don't you understand, me bringing in new money into the hedge fund space in crypto drives up the value of your tokens, and you are front running them, just as I promised you would.
Let's talk a bit about Bitcoin, because the market has historically followed Bitcoin's move because of the halving cycle. It's the brand, but like you said, Ethereum is on the rise, could certainly surpass Bitcoin at some point. But we're seeing Bitcoin being held by corporates on their balance sheet. Countries like El Salvador adopting Bitcoin. The mining ban in China decentralized the hash rate around the globe. A lot of miners are coming to the United States. What are your thoughts on Bitcoin's adoption and also a price prediction for this bull run peak?
Bitcoin's adoption is relentless for different reasons. It's a great balance sheet asset. It's a savings asset. It's a long-term vehicle. It has that, incredible qualities to it. And I think adoption just continues relentlessly over time. So I don't see any change to that whatsoever, even if the layer 2 doesn't really take off, even if they don't build smart contracts on it, I don't think it matters. I think Bitcoin has its value proposition and people are pretty comfortable with it. And it's very different to Ethereum. It stands in its own, and it's universally accepted for what it is. So my price prediction is, I still think it gets to about somewhere between 200,000 and 300,000.
Well, I'm certainly hoping it does too. That would be very nice.
But it has traded terribly.
Hmm.
It has traded terribly since March. We broke new highs, still can't really break higher. We don't get a retail acceleration point. It doesn't trade very well. That's the weird thing about it. Now, that could resolve itself with an explosive upside move, which is what I think is going to resolve it. But it really has not traded well this year. It's basically gone nowhere all year since the beginning, since March.
Yeah, you would almost be better off holding all coins, Ethereum or others, which would perform better.
Well, look, I mean, I'm looking at my screen. As of today, Bitcoin is up 95% this year. Ethereum's up 517% this year. And XRP that's on my screen is up 335% this year. So Bitcoin's been the worst asset to own of the majors.
Now, can you tell us what's in your crypto portfolio? And I'm assuming it's maybe a lot. So maybe your top coins that you're holding. You mentioned Ethereum.
It's fascinating. So my structure of how I built my portfolio is I started with Bitcoin, moved into Ethereum, switched most of my Bitcoin into Ethereum. And then I built a basket of alternatives. And I just took an equally weighted basket of like 10 large cap, because I don't know, and then I watched it. I added Solana at some point into that. And didn't do anything else, just left it like that. What's fascinating is my second largest holding now, from an equally weighted basket, second to Ethereum, Sandbox. I haven't bought any. It just went up 20x in the last month and a half, which is crazy. I mean, I would not have my second largest. I would not take that position, the second largest position in Sandbox, but that's where it is. And I'm not rebalancing for the time being. I'm just letting this phase play out and see where these things go. So yes, it's a mix. And so I've got some DeFi protocols, the usual Aave and whatever, stuff like Uniswap. And then I've got stuff like Polkadot, just all the stuff you'd expect. Nothing interesting. It gets interesting because I put metaverse bets on 6 months ago. Those things exploded, Decentraland and Sandbox. And I have some social token bets with Chiliz and Rally. So those are slightly different because they're more macro thematic bets of what I think future things are. But it's hard now with Sandbox because it's gone up so much. It's like, do I have enough conviction to have my second largest position in this?
Okay, so the first thing that jumps out on me is the discussion about Ethereum versus the likes of Solana or Terra. Now, over the past year especially, blockchains like Solana and Terra have exploded, and not just in terms of price, I'm talking about their real world adoption. Why have they grown so quickly? Well, for me, the answer comes down to network fees. If you've played around in crypto for a while, you'll know that around 18 months ago, 99% of the things worth your attention were built on Ethereum. For example, we had the DeFi summer of 2020, and it virtually entirely took place on Ethereum's network. Back when the number of users in crypto was relatively low, Ethereum's scaling issue, while still obviously there, wasn't such a problem. However, as more and more people have flooded into crypto and start playing around with some of these apps, the network fees continue to grow. That means to use a DeFi app on Ethereum today, you might be paying upwards of $30 per action. Clearly, from a user perspective, this isn't really acceptable. Now, obviously, Ethereum are well aware of this. They are moving towards a proof of stake model with ETH 2.0. They will be implementing sharding. They have scaling solutions, but they don't have solutions available today. This is where other blockchains enter the conversation. Solana, Terra, and other similar blockchains offer virtually zero fee transactions, and their confirmation times are much faster. This makes the user experience better and, importantly, leads to developer interest. As more and more developers start building interesting apps on these blockchains, it attracts more users. Where there are more users, developers are keen to explore, and it becomes a flywheel situation where the ecosystem grows. However, there are some drawbacks. Famously, there is something called the scalability trilemma. To simplify it, the trilemma states that you cannot solve for scalability, security, and decentralization all at the same time. Or said another way, if you want to make the blockchain faster, you have to sacrifice either decentralization or security. And these blockchains have made sacrifices. Typically, they are more centralized. They are controlled by a smaller group of individuals. Now, proponents of Ethereum say, what is the point of having blockchains in the first place if they aren't fully decentralized? Proponents of Solana and other blockchains will say the decentralization is a long-term goal. While they may be more centralized today, there is a path towards decentralization in the long term. So clearly there are arguments on both sides. I've tried to explain how both sides view it because I think it's important that you have the facts to make up your own mind. Now, personally, I believe the future will be multi-chain. I think certain blockchains will work better for certain jobs. Let's say you want to send $100 million across the world, or maybe a bank does, you'll use the most secure blockchain. It doesn't matter if it takes 10 minutes and it costs $100, security is your main concern. This is where Bitcoin comes in. If you want to settle large financial contracts, maybe you'll opt for the programmability of Ethereum over Bitcoin, and you don't mind paying larger fees than something like Solana or Terra. If you want to run a social media company with the majority of transactions taking place on chain, clearly you need extremely high throughput. So maybe in this example, you have to sacrifice a little bit of decentralization to get the speed required. Whichever blockchain has optimized for this speed will be your best bet. But that is just my personal opinion, and I'm keen to hear yours. Do you think the future is multi-chain, or do you think it's a winner-takes-all market? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and I will see you again very soon.